Alan Mak.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to establish a system of reserve National Health Service staff and for connected purposes. Madam Deputy Speaker, the coronavirus pandemic is the biggest challenge our health service has faced since its creation 70 years ago. And our inspirational doctors and nurses, paramedics and clinicians of all disciplines have risen to that challenge, alongside our NHS leaders and non-clinical staff across the whole country. These include Mark Cubban and his team at the Queen Alexandra Hospital in Portsmouth, and Dr Raj Lally, a GP from my constituency in Havant, who have both also contributed to the research for this bill. Supplementing that immense effort is an army of volunteers, operating on a scale not seen in this country since perhaps the Women's Land Army of the Second World War. As the coronavirus outbreak grew, my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, issued his clarion call for volunteers to help the NHS, and the public responded with great energy and in huge numbers. Over 750,000 people from all walks of life signed up to become NHS volunteer responders. And Madam Deputy Speaker, as of today, they have now collectively completed over 1 million tasks, from shopping and collecting prescriptions to driving people to hospital and telephone befriending. I'm sure the whole House will join me in thanking everybody that came forward to support their friends, colleagues, neighbours, family and communities since the outbreak began. These selfless people build on a strong tradition of volunteering that has in fact existed in the health service for many decades. There are thought to be around 80,000 volunteers across all acute trusts in England, contributing over 13 million hours of volunteering every year, and the true figures are likely to be much higher. These dedicated individuals carry out hundreds of roles, including volunteering on wards, providing administrative support, fundraising, organising patient participation groups, helping patients find their way around hospitals, supporting relatives of the sick, and also picking up medicines from pharmacies. One of the lessons we must learn from the coronavirus outbreak, and an opportunity we must seize, is ensuring we retain the skills and experience and commitment of both our existing base of volunteers and those people who came forward since the pandemic began. To achieve these goals, we should create the NHS Reserves, a new but recognisable and trusted NHS brand that will fit effectively into the existing NHS family. The NHS Reserves will be a new, uniformed, standing reserve of clinical and non-clinical volunteers who can be called up to support our hospitals, GP surgeries, pharmacies and other healthcare providers whenever more help is needed. This might be during public health emergencies, seasonal increases in demand, or critical incidents such as terrorist attacks or major accidents. Madam Deputy Speaker, the NHS Reserves brand will also help to formalise and give greater status and recognition to the many existing health service volunteers and provide a way to retain and use the skills of recently departed or retired staff. Madam Deputy Speaker, the House will also know that our country has a proud history of exceptional reserve services already. They're founded on dedicated and skilled people who often at a moment's notice rush to the scene of an emergency, give up their spare time to serve their community or bravely defend our country. These reservists are the very best of us. The Armed Forces Reserve, for example, not only contributed large deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq, but also provided around 15% of all the military personnel that made the London 2012 Olympics such a resounding success. The Police Special Constabulary, Madam Deputy Speaker, is made up of over 10,000 fully trained volunteers that work alongside full-time officers with the same uniform and equivalent powers. And the Fire and Rescue Service has its well-known system of retained firefighters who respond to emergencies around the clock. In fact, the NHS is the only one of our major emergency services not to have a formal nationalist reservist structure. Madam Deputy Speaker, the new NHS Reserves that I'm proposing would change that for the better, embodying many of the characteristics that have made our other reserve services so successful. Every NHS reservist would wear the same uniform and have the same equal status as their regular health service counterparts. This would strengthen their role in hospitals and clinical settings and give confidence to patients and staff. But rightly, when it comes to healthcare, patients will expect the very best treatment and the very highest standards from our NHS. Therefore, every NHS reservist would receive appropriate training, and anyone working in a clinical discipline will be vetted and have to maintain the same up-to-date qualifications as their full-time colleagues. Professional bodies like the General Medical Council and charities like St John Ambulance will play a key role here, given their expertise. In practical terms, Madam Deputy Speaker, reservists in clinical disciplines could support or perform a range of roles, such as vaccinators, therapists, triage nurses, telemedicine providers, or help with continuing healthcare. They could also provide general cover in non-specialist clinical roles if private sector staff supply agencies, locums or staff banks are not available to help at short notice. On the non-clinical side, reservist roles could include vehicle drivers, electricians, logistics specialists, IT experts and communications professionals, and also include and formalise the many hundreds of other non-clinical tasks that hospital volunteers currently carry out on a daily basis across our country. Madam Deputy Speaker, every year around 75,000 clinical staff leave the NHS, and they're people with relevant skills that could help at times of national or local emergency. Therefore, the NHS Reserves would also offer a route for experienced staff to continue helping the health service after stepping down from paid employment. This would also build on the important and valuable work already done by the General Medical Council and the Nursing and Midwifery Council that has allowed around 25,000 doctors and nurses to temporarily rejoin their registers to help in the fight against coronavirus. Madam Deputy Speaker, I anticipate that just like our other successful reserve services, NHS reservists will supplement, not supplant, any roles currently undertaken by NHS employees, whilst offering many other benefits to the health service. To make the NHS reserve system function well, we will also need a new National Reservists Register where the health service can capture details about volunteers and their skills, possibly using the NHS app as one channel. This central source of information will be accessible to NHS trusts, hospital chief executives and other healthcare bodies around the country, enabling the NHS to know who can be called up, including those with expertise that are not currently employed by the health service. This would be a useful resource in its own right and not one the health service currently has access to. Madam Deputy Speaker, the pandemic has shown just how much people love our NHS and how ready they are to support the health service when times are tough. I'm grateful that my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, is supporting my bill and has agreed to launch a pilot in all 7 NHS regions across England. I want to thank him, his advisers and his department for their help over many months. Some members of this House have already signed up to become parliamentary champions for the NHS reservists, and I welcome others who would like to promote the NHS reserves in their own constituencies. Madam Deputy Speaker, I strongly believe that we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to harness the passion, skills and commitment of those that have already volunteered for the NHS and those who would like to do so in the future. By launching the NHS reserves, we will be creating a positive, long-term legacy after coronavirus that will benefit our health service in every community for many years to come, and I commend this bill to the House.